What's up guys, and welcome to part 2 of the series of the transverse to longitudinal engine swap for this car. So we're going to go back into the past again, and we're going to show you grinding down the thermostat housing for the 1.8T to make the longitudinal thermostat housing work on a transverse engine block. Check it out. Alright, I got my setup here. It's a palm sander in a vise. It took me like half an hour to find the sandpaper, but I got it all on here, ready to go. I tried to put some cardboard underneath here to get it to be more flat, because this is made of sponge, so it kind of makes for an uneven surface. And when I ground down the original thermostat housing, it wasn't perfectly flat. It's not a huge deal, it'll still work, but I do want to get it as flat as I can. So I'm going to try now with the new one. Make sure you take off that little O-ring first before you take the grinder to it. So at this point, I kept grinding down the housing until it would fit in the engine. And I went back and forth between the engine and the sander to kind of test fit it, sand it down a little bit more, test fit it, sand it down a little bit more. And I kept doing that until it fit into the engine block nice and flush. So I got this thermostat housing all ground down now. And I left just enough of a lip there, so there's that little groove. If you can see that, but that groove is to hold the O-ring on. So I just went up until that groove. There's still a tiny bit of material left there, as you can tell. So I ground it down, test fitted it to make sure that it would fit, came back, ground it down, test fit, and then it was sitting flush, and then I ground it down just a little bit more just to be safe. So I'm pretty happy with it now. It sits pretty flush with the block there. Now I just got to put the O-ring in, tighten it down, and hopefully it doesn't leak. We'll find out when we get it running if it leaks or not. Also, make sure you lubricate the O-ring with coolant, and I put some paper towel in there so that no dust would get in. So I wiped this all clean now, and I'm going to pull this paper towel out and install it. I just looked inside here and it's pretty gross. There's also some dust kind of like by the water pump impeller there. So I'm just going to go and clean all that out before I put the thermostat housing in, because I don't want that nastiness in there. I also installed a brand new J-plug. So the Mark IVs use this as a coolant line, and it goes down this way. The Audis have this little J-plug here to kind of block off that port. So that's a brand new piece there. So keep that in mind if you are doing this swap. So I went to go bolt this puppy down, and I actually found that on one side it was kind of not perfectly flush with the block, and that was on the... So before I was looking at it from the top, but I decided to look at it from this angle, you could see that there was a gap on one side. So I looked at it again, and of course it wasn't a perfectly flat grind. So I ground it down a little bit more, and as you can see, there's no lip on the edge there anymore. So I ground it right till that little edge, and that edge just kind of holds that little part that sticks out, that holds the O-ring on. So I went right up until that, and I was almost like grinding off that lip too. So now this surface on the front here is smooth, so there's no extra bit at all. So I test fitted it again, it all looks really good. So I'm gonna put the O-ring on, clean this up again, put the O-ring on, and pull that paper towel out, and hopefully it'll be all good. Alright, so I got the motor all turned upside down here, and I got the thermostat housing all installed, and I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. It sits nicely flush there, and I've got the bolts torqued down, so that's done. And now I'm gonna RTV the oil pan. I'm gonna just go through and brake clean this flange, get all the oil off. There's a lot of oil on there. but it all looks pretty good. Like the condition of the engine does anyway. Everything's really clean in there. There's a bit of burned on oil there, but not too bad. So I'm gonna clean that up, put the oil pan on, get it all torqued down, and go from there. There's not a whole lot left. I still got to get the pilot bearing installed. So I actually found out there's no pilot bearing. There's no pilot bearing in there right now, and so I lucked out. I won't have to uninstall the pilot bearing at all. There's no pilot bearing in there. So I got a fresh pilot bearing ready to go. Press that in, get the clutch and flywheel and everything all installed there. Then it's onto the timing belt. Gotta do throwout bearing. Got a gasket for that too. Pretty excited. It's coming along a little slower than I hoped, but. So I cleaned up that flange. Looks a lot nicer now. I guess it doesn't really look much different, but it's a lot cleaner. I got that white, well, most of that RTV out. Oh, now I gotta brake clean it again. So yeah, I got most of that cleaned up. I'm gonna get that installed. Also, if you're down here with the oil pump off, or oil pan off, take the pickup off and clean all the gunk out of there. I have like a little dental pick tool that I was using. So there's that little pick that I was using, and I did it before, and I just kind of poked all the dirt out of the screen, and I rinsed oil out from this side out when I had the pickup off. So yeah, make sure you clean that while you're down there, while you're in there, and it'll get some better oil flow. So it's coming along. I'm gonna slap that oil pan on right now. It's not pretty, but it'll do. Okay, I'm gonna get it on quick. I got like a minute. Alright, so I got the turbo all bolted back down now, so it's all torqued to spec. Everything's good. Actually, it's not to spec, it's torqued hand tight to my spec, I guess. I got the coolant return line on, oil return line's on, oil pan is on, and then on this side, it's pretty much it. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Now I just gotta do the clutch, flywheel, timing belt still needs to be done, valve cover gasket I might just do. Had to take the turbo off a couple times to get everything all nice and cleaned up, and I got the coolant lines all tightened on, so everything's good there. And also this took some time because I had to grind that down a few times. So, but everything's looking really good. I just gotta get the manifold on as well. Still gotta tighten that down. After that, it's pretty much drop it in and start hooking everything up, all the wiring and coolant lines and everything. I also got the coolant flange all hooked up, so there's a brand new fresh coolant flange on the back there with a new coolant temperature sensor. Lots of work still left to do here, but I got a pretty good chunk done. I got the pilot bearing in, so that's nicely in there. I got the flywheel, got the bolts gunned on there, and now I'm going to make a little tool to lock the flywheel in place so I can actually torque those bolts down. So I found this little piece of steel in the garage. It's like got an L shape to it. I just keep lucking out and finding the right sort of chunks of metal and stuff to make these little tools. I'm going to drill a little hole, and then I'm going to cut down the length just a bit, and then that should just bolt into that hole there, go into the gear for the starter, and hopefully that'll lock the flywheel down in place. So we'll see how that works out.
A few moments later.
Turned out really good. Drilled a little hole in there. Took me a while to find a bolt and a nut that actually was the right size and that I could put a wrench on. So I'm doing the timing belt now, and I realized the old tensioner has this completely different style roller. And it also uses this bolt. So this just slides into there like that and tightens down. But the new one is completely different. So I'm like, what? How am I gonna make that work? So I went to the other engine, the old engine, the AMB, that came out of the Audi, and it had the newer style roller as well. So I actually took this stud. So I took the roller off. The stud is here, and then I put 2 nuts on it, tightened them together, and loosened this back nut. And I was able to take this whole stud out. Now I can take that stud and can just put it into the new engine. And now I can mount my new, and then I'll just, to tighten the stud into the head, I'll tighten these 2 nuts together and then tighten that outer one down and then loosen them all, or loosen them both back off. And then that will allow me to mount the new roller. All right, it's Sunday night and I got the engine in the car. I got the clutch and flywheel all installed, got the timing belt installed, tensioner, everything's on. The only thing is the timing marks don't perfectly line up. I think I need to redo that. So, but I wanted to just get the engine in the car so that at least it's sitting in there. It's a big step, kind of out of the way. I had to actually, so there's a metal plate that goes, I guess you can't see it, but there's a metal plate that goes kind of between the engine and the transmission, and I actually forgot to put that in. That big plate there. So I actually dropped the engine in, took me like half an hour, and then I pulled it out, put the plate on, had to do it again. So that was kind of annoying, but it's in there. There's still lots of work to do. I'm still kind of struggling with that right now. Alternator and intake manifold, PCV stuff all has to go back on. Engine's in there, so it's a big step. Decent progress, so hopefully this thing will be running soon. What is up? I am here at the garage working on the car. I have a lot of stuff done here. It's been a long road, but actually not that long. It's the next weekend now on Sunday night. I didn't get it done last weekend. Needless to say, there's a lot of work to do, so I'm working on it now. I didn't get too much done during the week, but I got the timing belt done. I ended up pulling the engine again, pretty much for no reason, because I thought I had the wrong plate between the engine and transmission, but it turned out I had the right one in there, so kind of wasted some time there, but coming along really well now. The engine is bolted to the transmission, and engine mounts are bolted in. Turbo setup is all kind of looking pretty good now. A timing belt is all timed. It's perfect, ready to go. The tensioner's there. It's a little bit tighter than, I think it's pretty good actually. So the timing belt's good. Cert belt's on, alternator's on. A lot of the coolant lines down here are done now. Oil cooler, oil filter's on. I'm just putting on the valve cover gasket. So I have the valve cover off now, and it's actually, I was looking under here before, and it's a really clean engine. So this should be a good runner for sure. It's looking really good under here. So I'm quite happy. I'm very excited to get it going. Everything so far has went pretty smoothly. I've had to kind of rig up a couple things here to, like this port on this turbo inlet pipe's not quite big enough to fit this, so I'm kind of made up a little hose there. Everything's looking pretty good. So now I'm just going to finish up the valve cover gasket, going to finish the coolant lines, put the intake manifold on so that this side will be all complete. Pretty much just the front end after that. Finish all the coolant lines, power steering lines, AC lines, load it up with coolant, and hopefully we'll get it running, but it's looking really good. The test pipe is on. I'm really excited. It's going well. So I'm going to finish this up. I'm going to do the valve cover gasket and a few little things. Coolant lines, intake manifold, finish buttoning up PCV system, get the air box in there. I have a fresh K&N filter to go on. It's a Mark IV Volkswagen Jetta block, AWW block, bolted into a B6 longitudinal Audi A4 setup. What's up guys? I'm here working on the car. I'm actually pretty much done swapping the motor in. So here she is. It's looking really good. I don't have the bumper on yet because I'm gonna have to do some cutting. The only thing that's missing is the battery. So I'm gonna put the battery in and she's ready to fire up. I had to replace the heater core line. Put coolant in it. It's pretty much ready to fire up. Just got to throw the battery in, and that's pretty much it. It's the moment of truth. Again, I don't know if this engine runs. I've never seen it run, but I've done all this work to kind of replace all the parts, put it in. I do trust the guy that sold it to me. We'll see. Let's start it up, shall we? Doesn't sound so good, but it does run. It runs. Hopefully that's not a timing belt. Vital mistake. I didn't put power steering fluid in it yet. Let's do that. All right, I'm in the car now. Just watch how easily this thing starts up. I forgot power steering fluid, so I actually put some in. And also my oil level sensor seems to be having some issues. The wire was broken, so I tried to kind of repair that, but that didn't work, so I'm gonna start it again. Look how easy it starts. And then it goes bad. Seems to me like timing might be off or something. It's doing some weird misfiring stuff. Starts really easily, but I don't know. It runs, and it runs really well. Holy crap. As you can imagine, it was a vacuum leak, but check this out. I just fixed, there was a PCV leak, and holy crap, look how well it runs. It idles so well. Look at this. No misfiring, no burning coolant that I can see, and no white smoke out the tailpipe. That is a massively relieving thing. Holy, I think it's almost time to take her for a little rip. Oh my god, I haven't driven this car in close to a year, guys. Almost a whole year it's been sitting in here. Ripped apart, put back together, and it runs. Holy crap, I cannot believe this. So I'm gonna let it warm up now. I'm gonna add coolant to fill the rad radiator. You know what I mean. It sounds good. It's time to start cleaning this thing up. All right, I'll update in a bit when she's a little warmer. She's overheating, boys. Oh, she went back down. 112. I did a little boost pull and it seems to be overheating, but it seems to be okay now. I think it's air in the system. It seems to fluctuate. She's back down at 94 now. So I'm just gonna keep it at low RPM for now. It's making boost though. And when we're up to speed, I think the temperature seems to be okay. We're at about 92 degrees, 91. but it sounds good, makes boost, pulls good. And that concludes part 2 of 2 of the Transverse to Longitudinal engine swap. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you actually watched this far, I just want to thank you so much for watching. Hit the subscribe and like button because the next content's gonna be a little bit different. I do have a little bit of maintenance stuff happening with this car. It's gonna be getting some refresh, it's gonna be getting some fresh doors, but what I'm most excited about is something a little bit different that we're gonna be working on that I'm planning for some next videos. So make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can see that when it comes out. With that, thank you again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.